Hey guys, Saga here, and today I want to talk to you about accuracy in Overwatch, what it means, and how it paints an incomplete picture of your play. So, accuracy in some first person shooters is indicative of how well you're playing, and where in Overwatch, for some characters, this is certainly true, think like Widowmaker for example, it doesn't paint a complete picture of your performance. So, in Overwatch, you have unlimited resources, which makes blind firing especially potent. So you may actually be doing a better job by laying down suppressing fire into a choke than the player who is waiting to see his target to shoot. You might get lucky, you might score a hit, you might even kill somebody just by blind firing. And naturally, the blind firing person is going to have a lower accuracy statistic when in fact their performance was better than the person who is waiting to see the guy to hit him directly. Junkrat's a prime example of this. A good Junkrat is always lobbing grenades down paths that the opponent is likely to be. He's missing the vast majority of the time, and his accuracy is probably horrendous, but his spam does serve a function. It controls space, and in doing so, it prevents easy entry. This matters for two reasons. It buys time, and Overwatch is a game where time matters, both in the competitive game sense and in the professional sense. And two, it changes the way the enemy team has to play. So in the same way, by having a Widowmaker on a high perch changes the way a team engages the opposite team, by having a Junkrat lob grenades down a hallway, it changes the way that they have to advance into your territory. Also, it's important to note that in Overwatch, maps are designed to choke off, meaning that you run into a choke point, and blind firing becomes especially potent anytime that a map chokes itself, creates a point where the team has to pass through. With all that said, you need to care about accuracy, but not as a statistic, but rather something to improve upon. So I suggest defining it a little differently. Don't think about it as a number of times you hit the person, but rather how well you can hit a target when you're actually trying to hit that target. One of the biggest traps people who are working to improve their accuracy fall into is staring at that number, that readout, that, your accuracy is 50%, is 52%, is 48%. By staring at that number, you're going to blind fire less often, whether you do it on purpose or because you're not really paying attention, but you are paying attention to improving your accuracy and thus are aiming more carefully, you're firing less. And the problem with that is that sometimes that's actually decreasing your performance. Another thing to note about accuracy is it does a poor job of telling you how accurate you really are. Sure, you can hit a body shot about 50% of the time, but how often are you getting headshots relative to body shots? Unfortunately, we don't have any statistics that help us figure this out, but you personally can know, I hit a headshot maybe 1 out of every 4 shots or 1 out of every 5 shots. And what separates good players from great players are getting those headshots. So where you might have the same accuracy as a professional player, you may not be able to be as good as that player due to the fact that he can hit the head much more often than you can and thus do more damage and be a bigger asset to his team. With that said, accuracy does offer you something, namely a baseline for you to figure out whether or not you're accurate enough to play certain characters in a competitive sense. If you are accurate enough to play, a very accuracy-demanding character, well then good. But if you're not, take note of that. Don't think of it as a bad, terrible thing. Overwatch is a game that is unique in that it offers roles to people who are both good at aiming and people who are bad. But if they're bad, you need to realize it. Because if you go into a competitive match with the mindset that you're going to play a character that demands high accuracy, and then don't have the accuracy to support that character, maybe you'd be better off playing someone else. Like this, you can make informed decisions. Now, I'm not saying to always not play the character. There's a time and a place for it. It's called quick match, or in training mode, or if you just saw the video that Force put out, he makes note that you can set the AI to a bunch of Annas and set it to headshot only, and by doing that, they're unable to do damage to you, but you're able to practice your headshots on them, get your accuracy up, then take it into competitive mode. So look, Overwatch, like most competitive first-person shooters, are tough to play, and getting very accurate with them takes practice. So with that said, how do you improve? The short answer is practice. Some people recommend lowering mouse sensitivity, which is something that I've recently adopted for myself. In other games, I play at an extremely high sensitivity and always pivot from the wrist, but now I've been working on pivoting from my elbow, which means playing it, basically using the mouse like a different device, and using my wrist to compensate for small motions. I'm not at a low enough sensitivity yet where I really want to make a video about it, but I'm weaning myself lower. Of course, there are downsides to doing this in that your jerk reactions become off for a while till you adjust. You miss a lot of twitch shots that you might have gotten from being used to your old accuracy. Another thing I recommend, beside what I mentioned earlier with Force's video, is the just regular practice mode is really useful too. I sat in regular practice mode with Widowmaker, practicing just her trick shots for an extended period of time, and afterward I saw a huge jump in my performance in games. I was able to utilize trick shots with about my average accuracy, and there are a bunch of situations where it'll help you get the edge, especially in winning Widow fights. If the Widow knows where you are, you can surprise them a lot of the time if they have eyes off with a trick shot. I mean, it's super important, and in order to practice it and to get enough repetitions and to actually improve, sometimes practice mode is the only way to really go. With that said, just play more games. There's no short solution to this. You just need to practice more, and with time will come improved accuracy. The other thing to remember is that accuracy is never a complete picture of your gameplay. You may be less accurate than another player, but consistently offering better performance due to positioning, knowledge of compositions, map knowledge, or just doing a better job supporting your team, being in the right place at the right time, and helping people survive. Accuracy in no way defines your play, but is something that every player to a varying extent needs to focus on improving. Alright guys, if you learned something and like my content, please subscribe.